Hello and welcome to Pearl Magazine. For many people, eating is one of the pleasures in life, and we never imagined that one day it could become a difficult task. But for many of the elderly, chewing and swallowing is a challenge, and they're forced to eat soft food, much of which is tasteless. With few food options available, Tina Jiang meets a couple of startups producing flavorful soft meals for those who miss the pleasures of a tasty meal.
Inside this food factory, a chef is cooking Hainanese chicken, a popular dish in Hong Kong. The recipe is specifically designed for those with dysphagia, or difficulty swallowing. First of all, the ingredients go into a blender. To make the minced chicken that's easy to swallow, the chef then adds water and an enzyme-based food softener, and then blitzes it again.
In theory, we adjust the softness of food by improving the structure of the food itself. For example, we structure the density of food to make it into softness as we wish. Last week, we produced like 3,200 lunch boxes, like 180 elderly homes, and 20 to 30 retail clients.
Francis used to run a food packaging business. In 2019, he expanded into food production.
During 2018, my father's lymphoma was diagnosed. In between the treatments, doctor required him to have moose food daily for practicing his swallowing skills. My family and I continued to search in the local market and found that there was no such product available. Watching my father, he didn't take food like 3 days and become like half-sized than before. Then your heart's beating. Therefore, we started to make our own puree. I cook like 8 hours a day and deliver 3 times per day to hospital. I feel exhausted physically and mentally because of worrying about the treatment of my father, the quality of food.
Researchers say people who suffer from brain injuries, neurological diseases, and head and neck cancers can develop swallowing difficulties. In Hong Kong, recent research shows that nearly 60% of the elderly in nursing homes and 40% of the elderly in daycare centers suffer from swallowing problems. Francis believes that most of the local carers don't have the time and patience to prepare special soft meals, and therefore, a pre-packaged meal makes it easier.
They just bought our products and back to home, they microwave for 2 minutes or 5 minutes maximum, or bring into the steamer like 10 minutes, I think. Then they can eat directly, which can be done at hospital or elderly home also.
Francis says his meals can be stored under 18 degrees Celsius for a year. They cost $20 to $60 each. Apart from his own products, Francis also sells Japanese ready-to-eat soft food that costs slightly higher at $60 to $80 per packet.
In fact, Japan has realized this dysphagia problem since 1994. Japan got more mature technique than us, like far away. They got the room temperature storage soft meal, which we can't do it right now because it's so high technique, and like those hygiene requirements is too high for a startup.
Japan has the largest aging population in the world. 25% of its people are seniors. Hong Kong will soon face the same situation. Estimates suggest that by 2036, a third of our population will be aged 65 or above.
Japan has always been at the forefront of geron technology among many countries in the world. And one of the things that they advocate quite a lot is actually through food. They have different kinds of food textures that are being served. They present it in many very wonderful, good-looking utensils. Also, they focus a lot on creating the right texture for elders who suffer from swallowing problems.
But Queenie says the Japanese imported dysphagia products are generally more expensive than local ones. On her own retail website, for example, 1 kilogram of Japan-made softener costs $1,000.
There are other options in Hong Kong, but all of them are imported and quite expensive, and rather to the point that it might not be affordable for most people. So by developing our products by ourselves as a Hong Kong-based startup, our products are about 30 to 50% cheaper than imported products.
In 2019, Abelona's company started developing drinks thickener, food softener, and gellant for local customers. She based her research team in Hong Kong and made the products on the mainland. The idea started with another personal experience of one of the partners whose grandfather suffered a stroke and needed soft meals. They found the market very specialized.
For example, people with dysphagia are usually only given porridges or purees, which are quite unappetizing. And at the time, she worked quite a lot in Japan, and she saw that there's very mature products available, even as widely available as you can just simply get it in supermarkets. So she brought those products back, and she thought, well, there is a serious aging problem in Hong Kong as well. Why don't we have it?
Abelona joined the startup last year. Before that, she was a PhD student at Imperial College in London, working on biomedical research. At the moment, they're working on a new technology which can make the food softer while keeping its original shape and form.
It's a combination of using enzymes and also physical interruption of the food, such as manipulating the temperature and pressure with the help of ultrasound to help penetrate the enzymes into the meat. And it will break down the fiber in the food and vegetables to soften it.
The new product hasn't launched yet, but at least one expert says it's good to have more options.
If you just look at, maybe 3-4 years ago, there may be just one company that's, importing dysphagia products to Hong Kong. But now we see that there are many more companies who are interested in importing or locally producing different types of food and drinks for those with swallowing needs. So that's a very good sign.
Dr. Chan has been studying swallowing problems for over 10 years. She believes there's plenty of room to develop dysphagia diets in Hong Kong, because right now there's only a limited choice.
The Japanese soft foods, the catalog is this thick. Types of soft foods we have in Hong Kong, the catalog is this thin. So if you just look at options, the Japanese already have many, many options, different taste, different texture, different softness.
But does the Japanese-made product taste better? We prepared 3 different samples and asked some of our colleagues to try them out.
Hi.
Hi.
We have a regular puree, the Hong Kong-produced salmon with vegetables, and the Japanese chicken with green onions.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to eat this when I'm older. Actually, I know I don't.
Well, you don't know that. Try it
Do we
first.
taste it right away? Oh,
Okay.
Taste test.
Just
I have
looks
to
like
preface
it looks like
this-
soup. Make it soup.
Yeah, that's true. Not a big soup person.
Meh,
Sorry.
not
That's
much.
like a waste of space in my stomach.
It's not. Yeah. It's very bland. There's not much to it. Let's see
The
what
color
it's
is
got.
nice. The color,
Yeah. The
it's,
presentation is everything.
presentation is better than the other two, I have to say. And it's much better than that. It's like a mash. Yeah,
It's okay.
It's not bad.
This last one, we were joking off camera. Very dog foodish. Maybe it's good for us too.
Yeah. I mean, this is the most solid looking food.
Yeah.
This is the best for me. That's the best for
Yeah,
you.
I take the second. But again, I mean, if I had to alternate between those two, I guess I'd be all right.
Obviously, this is some form of porridge. Should you say, yeah? If I were to eat this every day, I would find it quite dull and boring.
So which one do you like best?
I think I was most impressed with the salmon. Yeah, I think the salmon is the best.
With elderly, you like to eat food that you're familiar with. The soy sauce, the marinated food. We like that taste, but it's hard to find the same taste in the Japanese catalog. Even they have the 200 pages of different types of foods that you can try, but they are still the Japanese taste. We need something of the local taste, something Chinese-like. With more public awareness, hopefully we can have more choices for our local elderly to eat safely. At the same time, they can finally enjoy their mealtime.
After the break, urban farmers are reviving an abandoned village, turning it back into an oasis. Stay with us. Welcome back. In a remote 400-year-old village in northern New Territories, conservationists have introduced a socio-economic agricultural model to bring farming back to Hong Kong. April Zhou paid them a visit and experienced a rural and sustainable life far from the constant drilling, traffic, and stress of the city.
It's 9 o'clock on this Saturday morning. This small ferry, one of 2 regular sails only on the weekend, is heading north from Ma Liu Shou Pier. The destination after the 90-minute journey is Lai Chi Wo. Most passengers are here to visit this 400-year-old Hakka village. Farmer Keith Mack is ready to welcome his urban visitors to this remote northeastern New Territories village.
Hello, April.
Hi, hello, nice to meet you. Yeah, how are you?
You're fine, but busy today, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
On the weekend, Keith has to spend more time at home instead of going to field to serve his visitors. While Keith is busy entertaining the visitors, his partner Eugenia Pang is concentrating on making cake.
The ingredients, flour and ginger powder and some spice powder. We use ginger grown here from another farmer in Lai Chi Wo.
Eugenia says this chocolate ginger cake is ordered from the Lone Cafe in the village for its customers. The cafe forms a mutual help with farmers in the village. And cake is not the only handmade products by Eugenia.
Actually, we use our product to make the ice pop, mostly, like turmeric. This is turmeric. Yeah, the same process, actually, making the ginger powder.
Yeah, this is turmeric. Turmeric usually we collect once per year, but after we collect, we have to think about how to use it. So one of the main way we use it is for the ice pop. Actually, turmeric with passion fruit. And very special, just like the other, like just the radish with coriander.
That's the latest.
Yeah, the latest one.
Eugenia says the inspiration comes from her love for icicles.
That's my childhood dream. I can make it myself now. And the others, because we grown a lot of, plants, I have to think about to make it, edible and local.
Keith says Eugenia is talented in making diverse processed food, but neither of them have ever considered expanding their passion into a business.
Someone come in here and taste our ice pop and to sell this maybe in the city. But I refuse because I don't like that busy life, transport the things in and out.
Keith and Eugenia settled in Lai Chi Wo as full-time farmers 7 years ago. They were the first batch of farmers to open up the wasteland after the village was abandoned by its original residents many decades ago. At its peak, Lai Chi Wo, more than 500 residents, most of them farmers, lived and grew up here. In 1990s, many left, some found jobs in the city, and some migrated overseas. Keith and Eugenia first started farming there under a sustainable rural revitalization project. One of the project's objectives is to bring back agriculture to Hong Kong's countryside with minimal modern interference to the natural resources. But the pair have stopped relying on the fund in recent years and managed to sustain the project as a self-run farm. While Eugenia is more devoted to creating and developing new products, Keith goes to the farm more frequently.
We plant what we call the pigeon pear. Yeah, this is very good for the earth, giving fertilizing. We eat it in the form of soup, Chinese soup, and mix up with fry with pork.
Angie Ng is one of the project organizers. She says the project provides a platform to gather nature lovers while at the same time practice ecologically friendly farming.
We don't actually restrict them to grow certain kind of crops, but we provide advice to them which crop is good to them to make products, but also beneficial to a certain kind of wildlife like butterfly or dragonfly.
As a farmland planning advisor, Angie suggests farmers grow Mexican butterfly weed, which provides food for the butterflies.
We are doing farming here, but at the same time, we found that there are very diverse butterfly species around this area. We want to maintain this diversity. We also want to have some year-round flowering plants so that butterflies can be here all the time.
To minimize modern interference to the natural resources, Angie says they keep the traditional irrigation channel and direct water down from a stream nearby.
In many places now, those channels are no longer there because they use pipes and sprinklers to do the irrigation. But we insist here to maintain those irrigation channels, not just because we want to do irrigation, but you see the running water is really good for wildlife like dragonflies, frogs.
But a certain degree of human interference may be needed sometimes. Angie says humans can provide ecological value as well.
For example, if I let the pool stay for years, it may get dry and dried up, and then get very weedy and bushy, and finally the pool may lose the ecological function. We have to do some management works, like we have to keep the water level, and sometimes we need to control the vegetation density.
It's now noon. Back at Eugenia's home, the cake is ready. She delivers it to the cafe, which is just one alley away.
Enjoy.
The cafe owner is an indigenous villager. Although she has already moved out some years ago, the villager comes back on the weekend to run the cafe. Papaya, scallion, vegetables. The cafe owner says most of the food provided here are grown by local farmers. Even the fish is from the Double Haven, which is some 4 kilometers away. She says her cafe can serve as a sharing platform to promote the homegrown agricultural commodities and processed products, as well as advocating the concept of sustainability and farm to table.
The cafe is well known for the fresh and edible flowers. The owner says she grows the flowers herself, so I guess the farmland won't be too far. Each type of flowers has different flavor. As to the cake, because the ginger is locally grown, the flavor is really strong and it tastes moist.
It has been years since my last visit. It wasn't run as systematically as nowadays.
The revitalization project is in its 9th year. Angie says so far it's been a success. And it's quite new in Hong Kong in terms of establishing a new community in an abandoned village. A civilized community has been formed.
Of course, if we want to have very lively community and also sustainable community, we need to have some more people here and to carry out some different kinds of activities so that it's like a tiny society that can be sustained by itself.
But she says it is difficult to attract the indigenous people and their next generations back.
葵英姐，哇，執緊嘢喎，好香呢！葵英姐早晨啊！
Susan Wong is one of the 4 Aboriginals staying in this village. She moved to UK in her early teens before moving back around 50 years later.
初初係好興奮㗎，哇！我返屋企啦咁樣。
I was so excited as I came back to my childhood home. But now it doesn't matter anymore. We will leave here sooner or later because this village is desolate. It is not that I don't want to live here,
The poor transportation makes her commute hard. Revitalization requires capital and the coordination of the original villagers. But will they support in the long term?
Susan has to stay in the village because of the pandemic. Sometimes she cooks Hakka cuisine to treat her friends and frequent visitors. Today she plans to cook 7 dishes for 12 visitors. They would go to her after hiking and crossing rivers. This dish is called braised arrowhead with pork.
It is usually cooked over the Chinese New Year because the arrowhead is harvested in the winter. Another thing is arrowhead means auspicious in traditional Hakka culture. It represents delivering a boy.
Susan started cooking since 10 in the morning. It took 3 hours to get all dishes ready.
Some say it's very delicious. I'm not sure. They seem to enjoy the meals indeed. Every time I pass a dish to their table, they sound so excited, cheering and praising. I'm so glad to see them cheering and taking photos of the dishes.
Susan says she doesn't resist teaching cooking Hakka cuisine if someone is interested. But what she cares most now is living a happy and healthy life.
It is a gift from a friend. It looks like a muli tea cake because it is made on a tea cake model. I made this one myself. It looks like a ping pong paddle. It is interesting.
Behind the happiness, there are still dreams to be made. Angie hopes this project can be made an example for a mature and sustainable farming village in future.
People is always the critical element. Whether we can really work towards that direction. Rural work is not just about infrastructure. It's not about just revitalizing the buildings. It's about the nature environment of surrounding the village and also the culture in that place. At this moment, there are still some villages who can do those traditional things. When they're really getting old and they cannot do any more, we still need people to take up these skills and traditional culture. We are not just targeting villages now. We are targeting at those people who are really interested in those culture so that they can learn more and they can take up those skills and they can help pass on to next generations.
That's Pearl Magazine for this week. Next week, a closer look at how election reform orchestrated by Beijing may change the political future here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.